Welcome back, guys. My name is Patrick.
My name is Mike.
And this is the Oilers Fanatic playoff preview for round one of the Stanley Cup Playoffs.
Does that sound good?
It does, doesn't it? Edmonton Oilers and Los Angeles Kings. It begins on Monday, so wanted to get this playoff preview in for you guys. Got kind of an overview here, so we'll kind of go through things one by one and let you guys know our thoughts. So let us know what you guys think of everything in the comment section below after this video. But yeah, let's get started. So last time the Edmonton Oilers and LA Kings met in the playoffs, 1992.
I was in high school.
I was 8. I was 8. Yeah. So it's been a while. It's been a while.
Wow.
The Oilers won that series in 6 games. So harbinger of things to come. I don't know. We'll see. But let's go back and look at the game results between the Oilers and Kings over the course of the season. The first time was December 5th, 2021. LA beat the Oilers 5-1.
Wasn't that during the 6 weeks of doom, though? Or
I think
start of it?
That was a bit before. Well, actually, December 5th would have been like right around the start of it, yeah. And I think that was the night, too, that Connor McDavid got that 5-minute major and the game misconduct.
Oh, yes, that's exactly
so,
what it
was. Because if I remember correctly, the score was only like 2-1 at that point.
Yeah.
And then the Kings scored like 3 goals in the last 5 minutes. So that 5-1 loss is a little bit deceiving. It wasn't like it was the 5-1 hockey game. It was when you score 3 goals in the last 5 minutes. It's not really a 5-1 hockey game.
The beginning of the end for Tippett.
Yeah, and I remember so pissed after that. Anyway, such bullshit. But anyway, moving on. The next match was at February 15th. Edmonton walking away with a 5-2 victory over the LA Kings. And you're going to notice a little theme over these final 3 games. On March 30th, the Edmonton Oilers came away with a 4-3 victory over the LA Kings in the shootout. And their last meeting was on April 7th, the Edmonton Oilers winning 3-2 over the LA Kings. So the theme I'm going to point out for the last 3 games, Jay Woodcroft was the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers for those last 3 hockey games. Dave Tippett obviously was still the coach for that 5-1 loss. Not saying they lost because Dave Tippett was the coach, but, 3 wins, all Jay Woodcroft's. Might be something to it.
I think we need to kind of take a little bit of an interjection and just go, holy shit. We were both really excited when Jay came in and Dave Manson, but nobody really knew what to expect. He had been an assistant with McClellan, back in 2017, and we knew what his pedigree was, but wow. I don't know about you, Pat, but like for me, that game last night really proved to me that we actually have a team here, right? Like when Hyman scored that goal last night, you would have thought it was like game 7 of the Stanley Cup final, right? The boys are fired.
Well, they mobbed him. Like I don't know if you saw the video. Like
it was his
Hyman was looking for shelter,
and this is the thing that just was crazy. It was his very first overtime winning goal.
Yeah, and it was beauty.
And thanks Toronto for just giving him away. I was having a conversation with an unfortunate Leafs fan this morning, and he said, "Oh yeah, but we got Bunting." I'm like, "Yeah, so how many playoff series has Bunting been in?"
Well, you can bunt. We'll take the homer.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm like, well, good luck with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that's the first round futility may continue for the Toronto Maple Leafs this year. But
well, I don't know. And it's
not that the Oilers can talk at this
point.
Well,
but that's the thing.
So next up, I was going to look at the points leaders for the LA Kings and for the Edmonton Oilers. Mm-hmm. So most goals for the LA Kings this year, Adrian Kempe, he finishes with 35 goals in the regular season. And I think everyone knows who has the most goals for the Edmonton Oilers this year. That bum Leon Draisaitl with 55. A full 20 more than the top goal scorer for the LA Kings. But we'll get to that more in a minute. Most assists overall, Anze Kopitar with 48. And another boring guy, Connor McDavid, never does anything exciting. 79 assists this year he finishes with. I can safely say he does finish with that. We're recording this while the last game's on,
Yeah,
but he's not playing in it. So he finishes with 79 assists this year. And most points overall for the Kings, also Anze Kopitar. He finishes with 67 points. And Connor McDavid, 123 points this year. So another stellar year. Probably won't win him the Hart Trophy for some crazy reason. I have a feeling it's going to be Austin Matthews who gets it. But
throw up.
Yeah. Could be Igor Shesterkin for the Rangers, though.
We could only hope.
Yeah.
We could only hope.
Yeah, well, I think Shesterkin turned the Rangers into, I don't know if they're full-on Stanley Cup contender, but they're going to be a dangerous team.
Well, they're going to beat Pittsburgh.
And they're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs for sure.
And they're huge. They're built huge. They're built to last. So
yeah. Time on ice leader for the LA Kings, Drew Doughty, 25 minutes and 44 seconds.
Oh, sorry. How many minutes is he going to play? 0.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter. So, point there. Time on ice leader for the Oilers, Darnell Nurse. But it looks like Nurse should be back for Game 1. They sent Philip Broberg back to Bakersfield.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's right.
So, it's looking like Nurse should be good to go for Game 1. He's still got, another couple days here to rest up, and I have a feeling we're going to see Nurse there.
Man,
nothing official on that.
And then old man Woodcroft with his "we'll see."
Yeah, because Nurse plays 25 minutes, 2 seconds on average for the Oilers. Obviously, he's their number one defenseman, huge factor. You could tell from last night's game how much they missed him, but the Oilers are doing a good job of defense by committee. Having Brett Kulak has been absolutely huge.
Oh man, I think we need to keep that guy.
Yeah, well,
and the resurgence of Cody Ceci. Yeah, holy crap!
Well, Brett Kulak can bounce up to the top pairing.
Right?
How many guys can you bring in that you're paying? I think it was $900,000 that can go in your top pairing. Obviously, Brett Kulak's not a amazing top pairing defenseman, but he can go there though and play effectively.
But the funny thing is that under Dave Manson's tutelage, all he has to do is play defense. Yeah. I think the best conversation Woodcroft had with any player was Darnell Nurse. Hey, Darnell, you don't have to score a whole bunch of goals. You need to focus on playing defense. Once he took that pressure away from Darnell, he started playing defense. Shocking that you're going to be getting paid next year $9.3 million to play defense. Play defense.
But even still, the Oilers' defense are still putting up a lot of points.
Yeah, right.
Even with playing that way, so.
Because when you're playing the right way by committee, things are going to go in. Bounces are going to happen. And you almost have to say kudos to the horrible, just absolutely horrible officiating this year. Is that they basically for 82 games have been preparing the Edmonton Oilers for the absolute non-calls that are going to be.
We're definitely playoff ready when it comes to refs.
The other stat that I really like is the fact that our 5-on-5 play has been spectacular since Woodcroft came in. And the fact that they're not relying on the power play, they're not relying on the penalty kill, but the penalty kill has been pretty damn good. But they don't have to rely on the power play. They can score 5-on-5. To me, I don't think we've scored this much 5-on-5 in 3 years.
No. And just going back to the penalty kill, because, I couldn't believe that stat from the other night. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was 22 or 23 straight power plays they killed.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it's not like we're playing slouch teams. It was the Dallases, the Colorados. Unbelievable how these guys are dialed in and being focused. And Evander Kane, wow! I tell you, just the whole sense about this team right now is just 100%, 130% running wild, going forward. But now, again, it's got to win a playoff series.
Yeah. And speaking of Evander Kane, news yesterday, Darren Dreger, Oilers are going on, I don't want to say all in, but they're going to try very hard to re-sign Evander Kane. Okay, moving on here. So next up, we're going to look at the key differences between the Oilers and the Kings. So I'd say overall, the LA Kings are a more defensive-minded team. They play an excellent team game. They're really everything's by committee. They do have obviously some star players, but nothing along the lines of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But they do everything as a group really effectively, and obviously it's helped them to finish in third place in the Pacific this year. On average, they allow 2.8 goals per game and score 2.9. So they don't score much more than they give up, but they don't give up a lot. So,
well, the other thing is that nobody expected LA to do shit this year.
Yeah, this is
LA wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the playoffs, and some of the people that were supposed to be up there, like the Golden Knights and even the Canucks were looked at and saying, hey, well, maybe they've got a chance to really do something with the goaltending and stuff that they had. But this is a little bit odd, right?
So I'd say the Oilers are the deeper, more offensively driven team. On average, they allow 3.1 goals per game, but they also score 3.5. So obviously they outscore their mistakes. And obviously this number, I'm sure, has improved drastically since Jay Woodcroft took over. The Oilers were allowing way more goals before Jay Woodcroft, but obviously this is based on the season as a whole.
Well, they're playing a tighter team defense. Right? So. Like everybody's playing 200-foot games, right? Like you look at Draisaitl and McDavid, right? Like they've all bought in, right? They're all helping each other out. You know, even when there's a little bit of growing pains there with Bouchard this year, but his first full season, like he progressed all year, and he was doing better and better. But I think for him, the resurgence was Duncan Keith putting those two together and telling him he doesn't have to, you know, do all offense and do all that pinch all the time and do all that stuff, because him and Nurse, as good as they were, kind of, it's nothing like how that kind of like, I don't know, the overseer of Duncan Keith, like the guy that just has kind of experienced and done everything. He's won championships. That's the pedigree that you want.
So next up, I'm going to take a look at the Oilers and Kings head-to-head through 4 categories: coaching, forwards, defense, and goaltending. So coaching. Jay Woodcroft takes on Todd McLellan, the master versus the apprentice.
Man, like, could you have written a better, you know, series, first series? Like, the teams really are fairly close in dynamic. They both kind of play the same. Yeah, the Oilers have a little bit more firepower. Granted, I get that.
No, it's
right?
It's going to be a really even.
But I think as far as even and like the coaching styles, like both coaches are very, very cerebral and fast on their feet and love matchups and are very kind of docile but yet very stringent in what they do, and they have great assistant coaches.
So the Oilers, as I believe you mentioned earlier, last won a playoff series with Todd McLellan as their head coach and Jay Woodcroft as the assistant coach.
And then got screwed.
Yeah. In 2017, So I've watched a few series previews that give Todd McLellan the edge in this category, but respectfully, I disagree. I think Woodcroft has obviously been amazing since he was being hired. He's shown that his success in Bakersfield wasn't just a fluke, and he's 3-0 against Todd McLellan in the regular season. Now, I know the playoffs are a completely different beast than the regular season, but based off that alone, and Todd McLellan's, like, don't get me wrong, Todd McLellan's a great coach. I'm not trying to knock Todd McLellan here.
I think he's great.
But I just think Jay Woodcroft has a very long career in the NHL ahead of him. We're just seeing the start of his brilliance. Like the immediate effect he's had on this team in such a short period of time.
Dude, like I can't keep emphasizing the fact that they're a team now.
Yeah.
They look so disjointed up until that time. Like that 6 weeks of doom where people were starting to talk about, should we Connor McDavid wants out, and what could a guy get if you try to trade him, and what's going to happen with Draisaitl, and then all of a sudden it was like, pardon the term, but the Messiah comes through with this, big ogre as his assistant, and just kind of says, oh, no, guys, like, let's try this. Let's do this. And like I said, you've seen over the course of the last 3 months, it go from kind of a disjointed kind of like ragtag, kind of like, we knew that they were good in the beginning of the season. They did really well. But then when they started slumping and when it really started getting and festering, like the whole team atmosphere kind of seemed like it was, getting further apart and further apart and further apart. And now, like I said, last night when Hyman scored his first overtime goal and it was like the Stanley Cup final and Mike Smith and all these guys, like it was awesome. And that's what fires me up as a fan, is knowing that these guys, because what do we need in the playoffs? And what do they keep saying? What did all the pundits in Edmonton and around Canada and the NHL say? Well, these guys have to want to play for each other. They have to be selfless. They have to put it out, lay it out on the line, right? They have to have each other's back. I really think this team now has that.
So, I'd say overall, McClellan's a great coach, but I give the edge right now with how Jay Woodcroft's come in, his track record to this point. I give the edge to Jay Woodcroft, and I think...
I agree. Yeah, 100%
we both agree on that fact. All right, so moving on to the forwards. So, on talent alone, I have to give the edge to the Oilers here. McDavid, Draisaitl, Kane, just to name a few. But the Kings do counter with Anze Kopitar, Stanley Cup champion. Philip Deneau went to the finals last year with Montreal. Adrian Kempe, leading goal scorer for the Kings this year.
That's been a nice little bright spot for the LA Kings, too.
Yeah.
Philip Deneau really has taken that team and really found himself a new place with the LA Kings.
And I was also just going to mention Dustin Brown. So Dustin Brown will have some added incentive in this playoffs, because obviously he just announced his retirement, so this is his last kick at the can.
But he really, come on, we have to be honest, he's not the same player as he was.
Yeah, no.
He's lost a step and stuff,
but
but you're right. Once that game one buzzer sounds, there's a few of those LA Kings that know what's to come, and they can turn it on.
So, overall in the forwards, I think Mike and I agree here again.
Yeah.
Not a landslide, but I do give the edge to the Oilers, but obviously this is going to be a very hard-fought series. So, next up on defense. So, I'm going to go based on the fact that the Kings have allowed fewer goals per game than the Oilers. You have to give them the edge here.
I think so, too. I think we have a little bit of an unproven defensive core. This is the first year that all 6 or 7 of these guys are going to be together in the playoffs to try and see what they can do. And that's where you're going to separate the men from the boys. That's where, okay, so what kind of tutelage did you get all year, Bouchard, to see what you can bring to the playoffs? I think having the likes of Cody Ceci, a healthy Nurse, right? Duncan Keith. I think Duncan Keith is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Just for, if shit starts going wrong, he can be that sense of reason on the bench, which the defense and the forwards never really had last year. They were basically relying on our own core, the McDavid, Draisaitl, Nurse, and those guys to push them through. And they just, without the experience, it's really hard to do that, right? When you got a guy like Duncan Keith, like I said, he won everything that there is to win. And he can just go no, guys, settle down. We got this. We're not out of this. Because that's the nice thing about the playoffs, is that very rarely do you see guys getting beat 6-1.
No,
right?
I think, especially with this series,
yeah.
I think we're going to look at all very tight games. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts in this one. So, guys like Duncan Keith, like you mentioned, they're going to be the difference maker. Brett Kulak, Chris Russell. Obviously,
Kulak, what awesome.
Yeah. Obviously, the big loss for the Kings here on defense. No Drew Doughty, their top defenseman.
I think that in itself could be the difference maker right there. Right, is what Doughty brings, what Duncan Keith brings. That pedigree, that understanding of what it takes in the playoffs, sacrificing absolutely everything. Doesn't matter if it's game 1 or game 7. It's sacrificing, going after and doing everything you can to help your team have success and win hockey games. And it's win one at a time. You're not winning. You're not sweeping. You're not, right? You can't look at it that way. You can't go, oh, yeah, well, who are the Oilers going to play in the second round? Because we've done that before, and it's freaking burnt us the last 2 years.
Yeah, no,
right?
I'm not looking past this series at all.
You got to look at Monday night, first game, win that, and then move forward.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that's Jay Woodcroft's mantra, right?
Absolutely,
just take it one game at a time.
Laser beam focus for that first game.
Obviously, the Oilers need to get Darnell Nurse back. It looks like at this point that should be happening. Obviously, nothing official, but looks like Nurse should be back, and that would obviously be a huge factor.
He was put day-to-day, though, too, on daily face-off again, so who knows?
Yeah. But I'm sure if he can go at all, he's going to go. It's the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So, So yeah, overall, give LA the edge here just because they've proven over the course of the season that they're better at keeping the puck out of their own net, but it's another close draw there.
Yeah, it is.
And finally in goal. So for the Oilers, Mike Smith comes into the playoffs with a goals against average of 2.81 and a save percentage of .915. I don't know if there has been a better goaltender over the past few months. I mean,
like that's up there with Vasilevsky, like and Shishkin and those guys. Like Mike Smith has been since April 1st, after he turned 40. You have to say he's been pretty much the best goaltender in the National Hockey League.
I just wish he would have turned 40 a little bit faster, but yeah.
Well, see, but you know what? I think, everybody says karma's a bitch, and it is, but, everything seems to happen for a reason. If the guys would have not had that 6 weeks of darkness, would we have gotten Woodcroft, right? If Mike Smith would have, been healthy to play 60 games, right? Would he be in a position now where he's basically like in mid-season form and not exhausted like he was last year, right? It was only 56-game season last year, but with no fans and no extra hype, and just he played a lot of hockey last year.
Oh yeah, he was the goalie,
right? And it's like I'm not saying he was tired in the playoffs. It really looked like they just didn't have the depth last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, depth was there. Goaltending wasn't the problem last year. It was depth and some bonehead. Well, I don't want to get into it, but we're going to focus on this year's play.
Yes.
So Mikko Koskinen comes in with a goals against average of 3.14 and a save percentage of .901. So Koskinen hasn't been as good lately, but he was pretty good for a stretch there.
He's pretty solid, man.
Yeah.
Like dude, he's won, 26 games this year?
And
Who would have thought that Koskinen was going to win 26 games?
And he's essentially coming in as the backup at this point,
Yeah.
because I think Mike Smith's your starter.
Well, here's
right
a question for you, Pat.
Yeah.
Do you think we see both goaltenders in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I have a feeling we'll see both of them, yeah.
Seriously, man, I really, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's going to, it'll take Mike Smith legitimately either getting hurt or shit in the bed, like profusely, to not have to get a game. Like, seriously, man, we're talking one game at a time, a day off in between each game, right? Unless Mike goes, hey, man, like, I need a break. But again, we've seen what's happened, though, too. And that's the only thing right now where Mike Smith's been the better goaltender since April, right? Since April 1st. Koskinen's played okay, but the reason why Koskinen's only played okay is because he's been sitting for like 4 or 5 days in a row, right? Like Koskinen's like, it's so funny is that you can't overplay him because that's tough on him too. Like he's got about what's that? Yeah. Six games in a row or something like that, and then that's like, okay, we need somebody to play a game in here. But then on the other side is that you can't really sit him for more than 4 or 5 days because then, he's kind of rusty too.
And looking at the Kings, so Jonathan Quick, who's also playing like lights out right now, he comes in with a goals against average of 2.59 and a save percentage of .910. And Cal Peterson comes in with a goals against average of 2.89 and a save percentage of .895.
Like, seriously, it's...
Yeah. So, like I said, I think it's going to be Mike Smith versus Jonathan Quick in this series. We could see Peterson. We could see Koskinen.
And that's funny, too, because Peterson, the beginning of the year, like that first half of the season for LA, was the guy. Quick was, like, in the Koskinen role. And then it just goes to show what veteran presence does in that when push comes to shove towards the end of the season. And they've really relied on Jonathan Quick.
Yeah, and he has the playoff experience.
Absolutely.
He has the Stanley Cups, right?
So, yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, both guys, both Mike Smith and Jonathan Quick have a lot of playoff experience, but ultimately Quick has the Stanley Cups. Like all these categories, like no one blew anyone away in any of these categories, but It's another close one. But I'm going to give a slight edge to the Kings overall, just because you're looking at a guy named Jonathan Quick who's won multiple Stanley Cups.
It's so tight for how they've both played during the regular season, but Quick's got those couple cups, man, and you have to.
Yeah, like those mean something,
and
right?
the playoff series wins, and the Game 7 wins, and backstopping, and the shutouts in the playoffs. Like, you got to give credit where credit is due, 100%.
Yeah, so... Yeah, overall, so I give coaching and forwards to the Oilers and defense and goaltending to the LA Kings. Mike and I are pretty much in agreement on that.
I think it's probably a close margin for the defense and goaltending. But yeah, like the Oilers aren't going to run away with it.
So last, we're going to finish off here. I have my player to watch for the Oilers in this series as Warren Foegele. I have Warren Foegele being kind of, I don't know if he's going to be exactly Fernando Persani per se, but I think he's going to, like, this series is going to come down, as most playoff series do, to depth scoring, and I think Warren Foegele could be that guy who steps up, gets more goals than he's expected to. He's got the talent, he's going to have the opportunity, so Warren Foegele's my guy. Who's someone you have someone to watch?
See, I got to eat a little bit of crow here because back during the trade... when we did the trade deadline show, I was really hard on Yamamoto. And fair enough, you know. He's still not my favorite player by any means. I think he's too small, but he's tenacious. He's really done well, again, under the tutelage of Woodcroft.
Hit 20 goals.
He hit 20 goals, which shocked the shit out of me. I never thought that would happen. Because I know there was a lot of guys that commented just after when they started rolling, and he started rolling, and he was, you know, starting to get his groove back. That, hey, Mike, you gotta say something nice about Yama. I'm gonna say this, is that I think that there's two huge mitigating factors going into this playoff series and this playoff run that the boys are going to start on Monday. One is, I think there is a Fernando Pisani on the team, and I think it's that little bastard Yamamoto. I think that, you know, for finding and hunting down the right places, I think he's slippery and sneaky and all that bullshit. When you saw him do that Spinaroonie fucking backhanded goal there the other night, like,
yeah, that was a nice one.
And he's hitting, and like, you got to give him his props. But I think the thing that's good that I'm really looking for is we finally have our third line center in Nuge. And I think you're right. I think Foegele, but I think that whole line of Derek Ryan, Nuge, and Warren Foegele is going to be the tipping point for the Oilers coming into this.
So I'm going to wrap this up with our series predictions. So I'll start with mine. I have the Oilers winning in 5 games. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win in 5 games because they're going to go in and kick LA's ass. I can see all 5 of these games ending 3-2, 2-1. I just think overall the Oilers find the edge in 4 out of the first 5 games and wrap it up in 5. What do you think, Mike?
I think they sweep the LA Kings. I think that this team is ready to go. They're firing all cylinders. And I really do think you add in the fans and the fact that Draisaitl and McDavid are just chomping at the bit for this series to go. I'm sorry. I don't think LA's going to know what hit them, and I think we're going to hit them bad, and it's going to be 4 games. I don't think we're going to lose at home, and it's just going to tail over into going into LA. I think the Oilers sweep them in 4 games.
Yeah, I could see it. So, like I said, I think both of us overall agree it's going to be all 4, like 4 or 5, 6, however many it goes. They're all going to be close games, but the Oilers ultimately prevail in the end. So. Any last thoughts, Mike? You want to wrap
I don't know.
Or?
Like I think we went over a lot of great points. I'm just super excited. I think this is awesome. We have just so many really good points since we made that podcast at the trade deadline till now. You know, with how is this going to play out? Like, how are these guys going to mesh, and then now to see this product that's on the ice, and it's like, wow. Right, even a game last night where they probably really didn't deserve to win that game, but they found a way and they dug deep and they came out and won. And, McDavid and Draisaitl only played like 18, 19 minutes. Wow. And you know that they weren't going hard because they didn't have to, but they still turned out and won the game.
Yeah, good teams find ways to win
That's
games
right.
They don't deserve to win.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, well, I think that's a wrap, guys. My name's Patrick.
I'm Mike.
Let us know your thoughts overall. What do you guys think? How many games is it going to go? Let us know in the comment section below. That's all for now. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan. Take care, guys, and I'll see you for Game 1 on Monday.
Nice.
Take care.